Shit.
Good evening,
Fucker.
everyone.
Sorry.
Welcome to.
I'm so sorry.
We're working on trying to improve E-Train's manners, civility, language, skills, all those good kind of things. So, welcome to another night of Moffat on Money, Saturday Night Live and Rambling. I'm Clay.
Carson.
Joined by.
I'm Ellen.
Yeah, joined by Carson. Glad to have you, Carson. Yes. How you doing, man? This is a
Carson
rare
and
privilege
Ellen.
having you on first.
Carson and Ellen Carson. So, same thing.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good week. For those on the replay crew that'll be joining us sometime later, hope y'all all are doing well. Sorry you couldn't join us live. Hope you able to sometime. But we are glad to be here. It has been a beautiful Saturday here.
Afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, Saturday afternoon. Kind of got lost in thought a little bit. Got some feedback in my ear. But it's been a beautiful Saturday. Had a
the voices are talking to him.
They do on occasion. I see dead people as well. Had a challenging welding class trying to work with TIG. So that's TIG.
Let's
TIG
say hey to some people.
Technique.
Let's say hey to some people first. We got Sky Ricky on here. We have got Melissa, of course, our lovely Melissa. And Carson wants to know who's on first. What's on second? I don't know what's on third.
Carson beat y'all on tonight. I don't know if that's to his credit or what, but he jumped right on. So
we're so proud of you, Carson.
Usually Carson has to jump in a little later. But hope that's a good sign for you. And hey to all the pups, obviously. Pups are family.
Yes,
on this channel. We give them their fair amount of time, credit, love, adoration, affection, all those wondrous things. So
sorry, I got an itchy nose. This, like Clay was saying, we were welding. We breathe in lots of things when we're welding, but Clay tried TIG today. I tried TIG today, and I decided that I am not a TIG welder. I am a MIG welder, 1,000% MIG.
TIG is a little picky. It is definitely a technique type of welding. You don't think of that so much when you see these people welding, but there is actually a hell of a lot of chemistry and technique and just practice skills that you have to practice over and over and over and over and over to get competent at it.
It is a true art.
It is.
And science that I don't have the patience for, I don't think. Although Clay came back to me because I was like, I'm going to go MIG weld. And I was telling some of y'all yesterday that I do some grinding. So I ground all these lovely little pieces. I have like 8 of those little round things. And then I got an angle here going on. And this I got ground down after I decided that TIG was not for me. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to make with that next week, but we'll figure out something. Cheerful. Hi.
Yeah. Hey, Cheerful. She made them shine like a newly oiled baby's butt. They just all pretty.
They got to be clean for MIG.
So they are clean.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's been a good day. Welding actually was good, but just showed me I've still got a ways to go to get competent.
Yes, sir.
I know enough to be dangerous. I know enough not to be competent, but now I start looking at joints and welds and I'm judging them.
Oh, you don't get to do that yet. No.
I really shouldn't, but I do. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
It is.
You can just take it and run with it like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He knows more than I do, but he doesn't know what he's doing.
You're crazy as hell.
At least I'm honest.
That is true.
Um, we had a good Tuesday night with y'all.
Mhm.
Enjoyed it. Had a bunch of questions, which we enjoyed and appreciate. Hello, Brentwood. Good to see you. And Dunning Kruger. Look at old Carson throwing up the info. Carson, do you weld? You actually asked or mentioned something about the difference between acetylene torch and plasma cutting last time, and I didn't follow up with that good enough. Didn't know if you weld or had some background in it or not. But
No, it's something about why you would not plasma, I think, or not MIG
why
or
use
TIG
plasma
something.
on stainless?
Yes, there it was. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a non-oxidizing metal, so acetylene won't cut it, or it doesn't have iron in it.
There you go.
But what I was thinking was, we had a conversation, and I don't know if she has joined us yet, but is it Tesislava?
Mm-hmm. Tongue cover.
Asked several questions concerning Social Security. Carson, I've dabbled in welding and I pick up theory quickly. Well, you've got a good mind for it. I'll give you that. Yeah, it's the carbon content, not really the iron so much. But Social Security, I keep losing my train of thought. I don't know how that happens, but thank you, Carson. Thank you, Ellen. Giving credit
Anytime.
credit is due.
That's what we're here for.
She kind of asked a question, how to solve the Social Security problems or how to address the Social Security problems. My point with Social Security has been that the math just doesn't work. And I pointed out Tuesday night that when it was started, you had 200 people paying in for each recipient. That ratio has since dropped to about 2.8 to 1 and is continuing to drop further. So if your average recipient's getting $3,000 or $4,000 a month, each person paying in taxes pays in a combined average of $1,500 or $2,000 a month. That's a pretty big chunk. And it's going to be an even bigger chunk when people realize what they have paid in is they'll get a negative return on.
Yay.
Yeah, a negative return means you lose money on that investment. So all the payments you've made,
You'll get less back.
You'll get less back. And what your alternative would have been is to take that money and invest it over those 30 or 40 years. I figured out mine, and if I had at just an average market return, I would have about $9 to $10 million, $9 to $12 million.
Is that what you're going to get back in Social Security?
Yeah, no, I'll get, I don't know, $3,000, $3,500 a month. If I take it at the regular date, I can wait 3 years and collect another $1,000 a month. But if I had invested that in decent, good mutual funds, not just average, but had some, kept an eye on it, picked good managers, I would probably have closer to $20 million, 15 to 20 million. Now let's see, 20 million at 4%, I would be getting 800,000 a year. With Social Security, I'll be getting, I don't know, 36, 40,000 a year. Plus, if I die, I have nothing to leave anybody. Whereas if I had the 20 million, I would still have it available in my estate, just living off the interest.
Can we do a poll? A poll.
Yeah, cool.
Would you rather have your Social Security and be forced to invest in a money market or a mutual fund or give it to the government?
Yeah, that would be the idea, instead of just, because remember, about 15% of your salary goes towards Social Security taxes. You pay half, your employer pays half. So if you got that full 15%, or, um, was thinking about possible solutions. So to that dilemma, basically, long story short, the math doesn't work. I
Okay, hang
think
on. Is
hopefully
Brentwood doing
everybody
that
can agree on
poll?
that.
Are you doing that poll?
I'm not, I'm talking.
All right.
I'm going to let
Brentwood,
you
can
or
you pull
Brentwood
that
do the
poll
poll.
up, please? Whether you would rather give your 15% to the government or 15% to invest in a mutual fund, stock market, whatever. Thank you, Brentwood.
So, how to address the Social Security problem. That was a question that was asked that I really didn't feel like I did a good job of answering. So the first thing is, the government, politicians, everyone has to admit that that it's a failing system, that the math with a declining birth rate demographics just doesn't work out long term. We've seen over the past 50, 60 years where Social Security has been quote unquote patched or repaired or adjusted, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 times. And each time DC, Washington tells us all is well. This is it. This will save it forever. And then another decade, another 15 years, we're back to another crisis. Social Security is facing bankruptcy.
Can I ask you
So,
a question real quick?
yeah, no job patching will cure the ills.
If they had taken that money and actually put it in like a mutual fund, just an average, we would obviously be better off, correct?
Well, I told you what mine would have been. That's all I can do. Yeah.
Well, what'd they do with the money?
Well, let me go through this first, and then
Okay.
we'll talk about, other things, because I've gotten sidetracked a few times here so far already.
Sorry.
That's all right. It is a, germane question. I just want to finish this line of thought first while I'm thinking about
Go
it.
for it.
So, suggested changes. First of all, everybody has to admit and understand it's a failed system. Most people have no idea. They have no clue that it's a failed system, that the math does not work. They think they can make a little adjustment here or there and it'll be good. It won't. So, some changes. Now, these honestly are generalized ideas. I don't have specific income and demographic data. I haven't run any forecasting models, but something along this lines is if I were king, is what I would do. But first, you got to get everybody united. The system, it will fail. The math is just extremely problematic.
The math does not math.
Math does not math. So for the short term, you've got to attack the fraud and waste in Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. We have not gone after that with any kind of zeal. I say Social Security, particularly Social Security disability. You'll find when the economy gets bad, and I should have had a graphic on this, when the economy gets really bad, Social Security disability claims soar. It's like a bad economy means there's an awful lot of people getting injured who can no longer work. I call bullshit. Sorry. But so you got to attack the fraud and waste. Secondly, I would
Abuse.
attack the abuse. Secondly, I would remove the salary cap and tax benefits paid to the top 10% of earners. If you're in the top 1% and make $1 million a year, everything you would receive in Social Security payments would be taxed 100%. So you basically would get no Social Security payment.
You need to explain how the Social Security is has a cap at a certain earning point.
Okay. Down through the decades, the Social Security tax, which I'm going to call 15% of your salary. Remember, you pay half, your employer pays half. that 15% has been paid on your salary up to a certain cap. And in the 80s, that cap was like 27,000. This past year, the cap is, I think it's 167, somewhere around there. Don't hold me to the exact dollar figure, somewhere around there. So basically 15% of the $167,000 or whatever share of that you make goes to Social Security. So I would remove that $167,000 salary cap. So 100% of salaries would be taxed.
Okay, so
That is
just in case that wasn't clear, because Clay is a professor and he does this all day. You're only the 15% to Social Security is only the first $167,000 that you make.
yes,
Everything else does not go to Social Security. It is just yours.
right. So remove the cap. Now, honestly, I think this is an ugly solution
It is.
because I think it's wrong to tax somebody and admittedly they won't receive any benefit. You know, I've paid into Social Security all my life and I'll get my Social Security benefit. Now, it may be a negative return for me. I would have been much better off investing the money privately, directly. So I'm not thrilled about the math there, but I do get a benefit. For somebody who's $1 million, instead of paying, $20,000 a year in Social Security taxes, 18,000 and some change in Social Security taxes, they're now going to pay 150,000. That's a hell of a hit. And that may need to be moderated some because that's such a huge jump. You would really discourage people from taking salary in the US. So that's a risk when you raise taxes on the rich. For example, France instituted a millionaire's tax, and they had to repeal it in 6 months because their tax revenues dropped so severely. All the millionaires just up and left.
However, how about this? Just a brain fart here. But if you only taxed people who made over $167,000 a year on that amount, and then they got no benefit because clearly they have enough money to survive off of, or they should in their retirement, how would that go over, you think?
Well, I think Brentwood's summed it up pretty good. They'll never go for that. They won't like it. So you probably need to step that tax rate, give them some benefit. Like I say, I don't have precise numbers on the demographics or the breakdown. But somehow, some way, you've got to increase the tax base. There's just not, in 2020 or 2018, the Social Security system started going in the red. That meant it was paying out more each month than what it was receiving. And so the quote unquote money in reserve has been dwindling. Now the Social Security Trust Fund estimates it'll run out of money in 2032. So that's the kicker. It's going to fail.
Hey, all you Gen Xers, we're fucked. Just letting you know.
And there's a lot of people who that's their sole source of income. So you cannot let it fail. Politically, that's untenable. So whatever solution you come up with, it's going to be partially ugly. And that's where everybody needs to be on the same page, understanding that this is a failed plan. That we've got to change something, that the people who promised you this years ago, who told you it was fixed forever, they lied to you.
As Carson said, they stole it.
Yeah.
They took the money.
Yeah.
And Carson also, I'm sorry, managed first chat and first vote. He's very proud of himself tonight.
A night of first for Carson. So you've got to do something with the tax increase the revenue somewhat, even modestly. So you've
Yeah.
got to find some way to at least start taxing above the cap. Maybe not at the full rate, maybe a reduced rate, something that's a little bit more palpable. Because a jump from basically 1% to 15% of your income coming out in taxes just for Social Security, that's not your federal income tax. This is just Social Security, would be quite a slap to a lot of people.
Let me ask a
And
quick question before you go on. Do corporations pay income tax?
let's not do this. Let's stay on
Okay,
Social
sorry.
Security just for a minute. So you've got to adjust the salary cap somehow, some way. Secondly, I would revise the whole payment system, the series of guarantees. I would guarantee benefits 100% for those, like, say, over 45. Reduce benefits down to 50% for those over 35. I would scale it in between. For those under 40, I would allow complete withdrawal from Social Security. The employer then takes their FICA taxes and places them in an employee-directed IRA. So the employee still doesn't get it in salary. He can't take it and spend it however he wants, but it goes into an IRA that he directs, that the employee directs.
Okay, so
The deficit,
it's not employer, because we saw SBF, FTX, and how the Canadian Teachers Union, their retirement went to
yeah,
crap.
they don't control it. The employee does.
Okay.
It's in an IRA, not a company pension plan. The resulting deficit in Social Security, same thing is going to happen now, will be made up with in the general budget. Medicare, bottom line, Medicare and Social Security will not be available to those under 35. They'll have the enhanced IRAs. If I had $9 to $20 million, I could afford my own health insurance plan, plus have a much higher retirement income.
Question.
Yes.
So we're talking about like the younger millennials and Gen Zs who can't even afford to buy a house. They're in so much
Well,
debt.
it wouldn't affect them because they're already paying the 15%. It's just instead of that 15% going to the government, it goes into their IRA. So it wouldn't affect their take-home pay at one bit.
Okay. I see where you're coming from there. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And if I had, like I say, if I had done that through the years, I would have, let's say conservatively, at least $5 million up to $20 million, depend on how wisely I invested it. Could have more than 20 million, obviously. If I'd have bought Bitcoin, I'd be a trillionaire, for example. But
should the government offer the option for people who think they just cannot, they will not, even the 15th, they just don't trust it, whatever their reasoning is. So they say, okay, you can choose your IRA or we can put it in Social Security. Is that even plausible?
Well, the thing is, you've got to go ahead and kill off Social Security just because the math doesn't work. You get down to two paying in for one, you get down to one paying for one. In terms of today's income and salaries, just if the ratio drops to 1-to-1, how many people, instead of paying $1,500 a month in Social Security, want to be paying $3,000 or $4,000 a month in Social Security taxes? Everything else the same, ceteris paribus. Knowing in 40 years, it won't be there for you.
How do you, oh God, this is so hard. I mean, I totally back up what you're saying, but how do you make sure that you're in that scenario, that you're investing in the right fund? Because the government controlled a lot of this. What works, what doesn't. Totally, probably not morally, but how would you choose something like that?
I mean, there's nothing completely guaranteed.
Right.
I knew a officer with Wachovia who had $360 million in Wachovia stock in his retirement plan. He watched it go down to zero.
I mean, walk all over you.
Yeah, during the subprime crisis. So guarantees are terribly, terribly expensive for the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
Um, insurance companies, quote unquote, try to guarantee their funds, but there's a huge cost to that in terms of the return you give up. Now, Carson, had a crazy idea.
Oh, wait.
They cut spending elsewhere, fund Social Security with general revenue, since that's what they stole it for, then make all new monies into a market fund.
Never happened.
Yeah. I don't think you want the government directing investments. We've had some issues with, for example, BlackRock and State Street and
Vanguard.
Fidelity, Vanguard directing so much investment money, but with the CEOs trying to direct it toward their political favorites. That's not what fund management does. And I just saw what state was it? Florida, Texas was taking out $1 billion. BlackRock has lost like $3 trillion in investments this past year due to Larry Fink's political agenda.
Even though he claimed at the Switzerland thing, what is it called?
Davos, WEF.
Yeah, that he always looked out for his investors.
I can't think of a major evil that has been done, particularly in the past 100 years, modern times, where it hasn't been done because somebody was looking out for the best interest of the people.
Nope.
Anytime throws out that kind of argument, almost a nonsensical argument, they have nothing constructive or positive to really offer. They don't want to engage in rational debate. I'm for the people. Everybody that opposes me is against the people, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one problem I have with a lot of the current political debate. You've got people in high office calling their opponents Nazis and whatever. It's
fascists and racist and everything else.
Which is exactly what Nazis and fascists would do. Hitler was really, really good at blaming others for things he did.
Huh, sounds familiar.
Yeah. And, that came to be known as propaganda. They rose it to...
Sorry, that's 7:30 alarm.
Yeah, they elevated it to an art form. So they will end up funding Social Security out of general revenues. Just not going to be much of a choice. The problem is, will they cut other spending elsewhere? They won't do it voluntarily. No. There'll have to be a major crisis that makes them cut spending, and that's going to be ugly. Whole separate issue, whole separate realm. But a lot of, with nearly 50% of the country receiving some sort of government aid or funding or subsidy, when that's cut, there's going to be a lot of mad people. So,
oh yeah, I want to interlude here real quick. Do you mind?
No.
There is, I don't know if you've seen Cap Chatfield online. He is a pastor, and he has, in case you're interested, we're going to share this screen. I assume that's okay. It's that one. Can you see that? No?
Nope.
Why can't I do that? Oh, there it is. There we go. I think. Or is that us? It won't let me. I'm going to send it to you.
Oh,
Oh, there we
geez.
go. Here we go. This is called Switch with Cap. They it's comparable prices. Family owned manufacturers. It's all in America, non-toxic products, no mainstream advertising. And these are the brands they don't like because of their marketing, advertising, all the things. But it is called Switch with Cap, SWITCH with KAP.com. And you just talk to some of their people and just see, what they can do for you. You're going to pay the same for products that are not out there, like promoting transgender or not made outside of the US. I just think it's a really good thing. No, we're not being paid by these people at all. But yeah, switchwithcap.com. Sorry.
Okay, getting back to the topic, if y'all are still there.
Oh, stop it.
So the deficit will be made up in the general budget. Medicare, Social Security will not be available for those under 35. They'll have the enhanced IRAs, and they'll actually be better off. But everything's got to start with communicating to the general population, who right now has no understanding of the deficit, the crisis in IRAs. Carson, they should offer the option, but they won't because they want control. That's huge. That is true. And that's a huge issue for DC ever giving up control.
Yep.
They like being able to raid the kitty. Problem is, there's no more kitty for them to raid. In fact, they're going to have to start funding the kitty. Yeah. SBF is going to jail for 25 years for what the government does all the time. Can't find anything to disagree with in that. Nothing to disagree with that. And this may be my favorite quote of the night. We're being governed by children from the Lord of Flies.
Not the one I had up there.
His next comment. Ellen was talking. You think I'm going to go away from a Southern female voice? Who said you were going away? I missed that part.
You said if y'all didn't all go away when I was showing the chat field.
No, I didn't say if I was going away. I said for those that are still there. Is what I said.
Same thing.
So anyway, sorry. I wanted to answer that on Social Security because I felt like I didn't do a good job Tuesday night actually addressing the question as far as what would I do. So if I was king, my solution would ultimately be the dissolution of Social Security and Medicare for a private plan that ultimately would be far more beneficial for everybody under 35. For those,
it's got to be a weaning process.
Yeah, for those 35 to 45, there's kind of a weaning thing. For those 45 and over, the system would remain as it is unless they elected to leave it. When I was 45, would I possibly, running the math, I haven't run the math, but I possibly, if I was 45, 46, 47, I possibly would have agreed to exit Social Security if I could have used that 15% elsewhere. But I'd have to play with the numbers some. I don't know exactly where that break would be.
What do you mean use it elsewhere?
In a private IRA.
Okay.
Like if I'm 60, do I want out of Social Security? No, I pay in it 5 more years, then I get the benefit for life. And that's a big, that's kind of a problem in that if you have a private plan, you can annuitize it. You can take
Mhm.
not only the interest, but the principal also.
And you
But how
have to at
long?
some point.
Yeah, in Canada, they have schedules where you have to take a certain percent or a certain rate of your plan to annuitize it. I think the longest life expectancy is like 95. So if you live to 96, you have no retirement. We talked about that, I don't know, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and I forget the exact details, but I thought that's kind of weird. You're basically forcing everybody to die by this age or they have no retirement benefit. But Social Security is not like that. It pays for as long as you live. I mean, Ellen's grandfather is 95, 96, and he's
He's
still collecting
96.
his. Yeah, he's 96 and he's still collecting his.
But he has a good pension too, so it's,
Well, yeah, I'm just
he's doing
talking
all
about
right. Yeah.
annuitizing Social Security, where you take the money plus the
Yeah.
interest and you
I know.
withdraw it uh, to where it draws down to zero by some age.
Had he had an annuity or had he invested the money that he put in Social Security, he would be doing far better than he is
Yeah,
now. But he
for most.
retired in 83.
Yeah.
I mean, he has been retired longer than he worked.
And those people, my father, those age people made a great
Mhm.
return. For me, and I'm 65, my return is negative. I will get out of it less than what I paid in it. I could have a far better retirement if I'd had the money privately. For those younger than me, 50, 40, 30, 25, their returns will be hugely negative, significantly negative. So once they figure that out, they're going to revolt. You know,
Yeah.
the Gen Zers are already mad at the system. And once they figure out they're paying into this plan that statistically they probably won't get anything out of, if they do, it'll be a hugely negative return. They're going to revolt. And I can't say as I blame them. Cheerful. I thought there was a minimum required distribution, 401k or IRA. There is, but I don't think it completely annuitizes it. I'll have to go back and look.
It does
I
not.
think it's I think it's a small, depends on what it's earning. There are some bank savings account that are still paying 0.5% today. If you've got it in a relatively decent money market or T-bill, short term, relatively safe investment, you're probably earning 4.5 to 5%.
And a lot of people now are actually borrowing into their 401ks and IRAs with a huge, what do you call it?
Penalty.
Penalty. And because they can't afford the inflation in the United States right now.
Yeah. They are having trouble making their house payment, buying groceries, and so they're having to withdraw money from their IRA. And there's a 10% or 15% penalty, plus they have to claim it as income. So they also lose
And you
income
get
taxes on
taxed.
it.
Yeah.
So literally half of it's going in taxes for a lot of people, which is, plus they won't have it to retire on.
It's gone.
Yeah. So, things are just so screwed in this country. There just needs to be a major house cleaning and a kind of a come to Jesus moment between the politicians and the people. And, let's be honest with really where things are. We can't move forward if we don't understand what lies ahead.
Again, I will say, since $160 billion to Ukraine, put it back in the damn Social Security.
Well, there's a lot of things where they
I
could,
know. I'm just saying
spend money
it's
better.
stupid. And Brentwood, I have so little in my 401k. It is sad. I don't even have one. Like, I've always been an independent contractor or worked for myself, and it's yikes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that, it's tough. It is. And for them, it hadn't been getting any better the past few years. So when does that turn around? I don't know. Maybe some of the things we cover tonight will help a little bit, because we asked some of y'all what you wanted us to cover. What questions, did you have? And you responded with some zeal as well as good ideas. So tonight we're going to dig a little bit more into that, hence the name, Cornucopia of Personal Finance. Carson, making people die by a certain age, back to discussing medical assistance in dying. There is, I don't want to be morbid, but there's a lot of economic incentives for the state, for the Social Security Administration, for the Canadian retirement system, whatever, for Medicaid, for Medicare, in people dying younger.
I'm not laughing at your answer. Sorry.
Not getting extended medical care. Let's put it that way, because the end of life medical care is terribly expensive. So if we could just, go ahead and get people to die instead of going through a lot of that treatment, we could save a lot of money. Not trying to be morbid. That's just the plain truth.
There is, in the United States, there's Medicare spend down, which they look back 7 years now at what you've given anyone, and they are able to take it away if you go into a long-term
care facility.
Yes. And they will take your house, they will take your car, they will take all of your cash, they will take your savings, they will take everything you have. Period. End of sentence.
Yep. Brentwood's got the suggestion. Gen X should keep being our Gen X selves, and we'll never make it to retirement. That would help others, right? Take one for the team, in other words.
We always have we not, Brentwood and Melissa and Carson? That's what we do.
All right. So in terms of the cornucopia, tonight we'll be, covering some budgeting, with or without our favorite furry friends. We'll be talking about saving for retirement, as well as personal taxes, with or without a business, paying down debt, your credit scores, just like we say, a cornucopia of personal finance issues. So let's start with budgeting.
Yikes.
Yeah, budgeting. Budgeting is probably the least sexy topic in finance that you can talk about or cover. It just doesn't excite anybody.
Now, wait, I know this was not planned, but you and I had a very candid talk about a budget a month and a half ago, and we have done so much better. True?
Yeah. Yep.
Budget sucks.
It's never a fun target, because anytime you talk about budget, it's never about how can we spend more. It's about, we're spending too much, generally, almost always. And it's about controlling your finances, not letting your finances control you. Simply, I believe that if you can't control your wallet, you end up being unable to control much of anything in your life. And this can even include the impacts of things beyond your control, like inflation. Inflation has hammered a lot of people, particularly those poor middle class, has just absolutely wreaked havoc on them. But the inability to control one's finances is extremely critical. It will ultimately control you. So those are your two choices. Pick one. Using a budget requires discipline, and nobody likes discipline. It's never a fun thing. But the rewards are much, much more satisfactual. Can I quote, who was it? It's not Bugaloo in Jungle Book. Who always said it's mighty satisfactual?
You.
I took that from Jungle Book, the old Jungle
I
Book.
don't know.
Isn't that a song? Satisfactual something. Anyway. And all right, I need all the movie, experts to bail me out here. Anyway,
He's like, I'm not a creep. Come on, people. What is it?
yeah. It's ultimately to your benefit. So let's start with the basics.
God. All right.
One, you've got to determine what you make. You've got to determine your net income after your take-home pay, not your net income, your take-home pay. And if it varies, then you need to, use what's the minimum you can expect every month. And what I'm talking about is, your salary, less taxes, health insurance, your retirement, all those kind of expenses that are taken out. How much do you bring home to pay your bills? So now if you do, if you're self-employed or if you do gig work, this can be challenging figuring out this amount, but you've got to come up with a reasonable, honest number. Start with some minimum that you're pretty confident you can bring home or every month after those expenses. You've got to keep good notes or preferably an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes, please.
On your income and your expenses. Now you can get some little budget apps. There are a lot of free ones out there for iPhone, for Android that will help you track your expenses. If you look at your bank statement or credit card accounts, a lot of times, like my bank's Wells Fargo, I can take a payment to some company and describe it as groceries or whatever, gas or whatever. And then from then on, it'll fall in that category. So I can do it kind of automatically in my online bank account or with my credit cards. But if you can't, or if it's easier for you, just list them out, categorize them, in an Excel spreadsheet. If, like I say, if you're a gig worker, you want to look at the net amount available to you after expenses and after the 15% Social Security taxes, federal, state, city, income taxes, all of that. Because you've got to get those taken care of. If you don't, you're going to have big headaches. So figure out your income, take home income. Secondly, you want to identify and track your spending. List all of your regular monthly bills, fixed bills that you have to pay, rent, mortgage, utilities, those kind of things. List groceries, how much do you spend on gas? Everything you do regularly that doesn't have a fixed payment. Again, go through your bank and credit card statements, the things that you have to pay for, that you have to allow for. Also, you should include money for you, your personal savings. I don't care if it's just $50 a month, $100 a month. You need to put something aside for you and your future every month. We've talked about beginning investing and what $50 over time can turn into. Believe me, you'll be far, far better off. You'll be far happier in the future if you do that every month. You need to provide for your future, even unknown emergencies. So,
And that's
if you
hard.
can,
That's hard when you
it
have
is.
no money.
It's hard when things are tight. It is. Now, there will be some people, watching this sooner or later who may be working 2 or 3 jobs just to try to make ends meet. If you can find a way, do the $50 a month. But I've been where you are. I understand that, there are certain times when you've just got to take care of the now. But for those of you who save or can save, I would strongly encourage you to put some or all of it, if you can, into an IRA. Now, we've talked before about traditional and Roth IRAs. Looks like Ellen is dying to say something.
No, I was going to say even $1 a day, $1 a day.
Yeah, it's $30 a month.
Yeah.
Most of us can find a way to save $1 a day, $1 a day.
We spend $1 extra a day on so many things. If we just said, you know what? Not that today. I will keep my $1.
Cheerful is my hero. Officially, Moppet on Money, hero of the night. We need we need like a
Show me the money!
So, yes.
I think Cheerful just won a hat.
Yeah. We may do that. That's a good
Cheerful,
idea.
if you will email us at moffatonmoney@gmail.com, which is running across your screen, you will get one of the lovely hats that I wear all the time. It didn't match my outfit tonight. I know it looks like I'm wearing black, but I'm wearing blue. That says "Stupid Should Hurt" and the logo. So if you will email us your address, I will get that off to you. Sorry. Very shortly. We just ordered it like 12 more.
We'll send you a free hat for being the hero of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Brentwood, my toes are tapping now that I have the song stuck in my head.
No, but look, did you see she even got the lyrics.
Yep.
It's the truth. It's actual. Everything is satisfactual.
See, I knew that was a real word. Mighty satisfactual. Melissa, I've survived using what I call creative accounting.
Girl, I've been there. I'm going to rob Peter to pay Paul to make this, and then Mary's in there, and we're going to figure out all the things.
Yep.
Been there, done that.
There are times when that is necessary. You just do the best you can.
Mm-hmm.
But there are even times when laying out a budget, even if things are tight, maybe by putting things down in writing and understanding where the money is going may help you make decisions on where you don't want the money to go. So,
and get on your phone, there's a few apps that will actually tell you where all of your subscriptions are that are monthly. You might even know that they're going on. And just to cancel those, make sure that, there's no money taken out of your account that you didn't intend.
Yeah, Ellen likes those. I don't, because you have to give them all your personal information, and it's just another way for hackers to gain your personal information and screw up your life. If you go through your bank account, your checking account statements, those kind of things, you'll see who's taking money out of your account. And you can, stop that or whatever. But, if that is too tedious for you, and I'll admit, some people don't have that gift. And if you're not concerned about your personal information being let out into the wild, then, some of those apps might be a good choice for you. But for me, I'm just very cautious about giving anybody my personal information. I just had a guy here working on the electrical service, and he wanted my Wi-Fi password. And I'm like, hell no. And he's like, I need to connect this so that the utility can approve it, et cetera, et cetera. So I go up and I create a guest network and then give him, make a plain password for that, for the utility use. I'm much more of a private person than a lot of people.
Yeah. Very much
take
so.
that with a grain of salt. You make whatever decision in your best interest. So IRAs, we've talked about the difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA before. I won't go into all that now. The difference basically is you either pay the tax now and take the money out tax-free later, a Roth, or you get the tax reduction now, but when you take it out, you pay taxes on it, a traditional. So if you want more detail on that, let me know. Next step would be to take all this, expense information that you've collected and categorize it into 3 categories. You've got needs, things you have to spend on every month: housing, food, car payment, insurance, utilities,
Dogs.
maybe childcare, dog care. Second category would be wants, TV. Let's face it, some of us think TV is a necessity, but
No, wait.
maybe not so much.
No, I mean, you can literally stream on your iPad or anywhere on your TV. You can link the two, you can screen share, but cable is not necessary.
Yeah. Even the fastest internet is not necessary, because a lot of times I've seen a lot of people have, extremely fast internet, but they don't need it. It's of no benefit to them. They're not doing heavy data transmission. And so if they had the slower, cheaper plan, they still wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But wants, TV, clothes, vacations, those kind of things. And then finally, the third category would be
Vacation.
savings debt.
Vacation, what's that?
A want.
No, I just meant,
Second
what's a
category.
vacation?
Yep.
A lot of people do not know what that is anymore.
Well, again, it's like spending choices. If you're spending your money doing other things during the day, during the week, during the month, that's your vacation money. I mean, I've seen people blow, 20 to 50 grand a month on Coke. I've seen people blow a lot of money
Seen
on
that too.
booze and cigarettes. Cigarettes are what, $10 a pack now? A lot of people
They're
who are
getting
going
there.
to a pack a day. $10 a day times 30. $300 a month. $3,600 a year. These kind of expenses add up. So vacations are oftentimes possible, but people make other choices to where they are not possible. So choices matter. Savings debt would be the third category. This would be money you put aside for retirement, for maybe your future education. Maybe you want to take welding classes in the future, so you start saving money now for that. Maybe you want, have other goals. Your credit card payments, and not just your minimum.
Yeah, Clay and I were actually discussing this earlier today, and I thought it was very interesting because I was like, shouldn't you pay off your highest interest rate credit cards first? He was like, not necessarily.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Sorry.
It's all right. So you have the 3 categories: needs, wants, savings debt. The amount you spend in each one of those categories. And a general rule of thumb, a goal, should be what's known as the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your take-home pay on needs, 30% on wants, 20% on savings and debt payment, credit card payment. Remember, your mortgage payment, your car payment is a need. You've got to make those payments. So 50-30-20 rule. And, I saw this and thought I would give you, I guess what I would call a quick calculator. Where'd it go? There it is. Share screen. Share screen right here. Share. This is I mean, there's several out there. You don't have to use this one, but this is a 50/30 budget calculator with Nerd Wallet. And I thought this was just, kind of a quick example. If I've got $3,000 a month in take home income, well, then 1,500 is my goal maximum on needs, 900 on my wants, and 600 on savings and debt repayment. In addition, Nerd Wallet, several others have a free app where you can keep track of your expenses as you go through the month spending. You may spend $15 at the laundromat. You may pay cash or whatever. It's important to track every expense, even your miscellaneous expenses, because I've seen people blow a lot of money on miscellaneous. But again, you have to be disciplined in filling it out. So that's step 2. List your expenses, categorize them, identify them. Number 3 would be setting your goals. Once you know your income, once you know your expensive, now you need to kind of identify your goals. Set realistic goals. This is something a lot of people have some difficulty with, but it's not that hard. What's most important to you? Is it paying down a credit card, or is it saving for a vacation, or is it funding your future retirement or future education for you, your kids, send your dogs to school, whatever. This process, setting your goals, can actually help you reduce your expenses because you think, instead of spending money on this, I'd rather have this. Reducing expenses for a purpose or a goal is easier than just saying, I'm going to cut out this expense. Having a reason to cut the expense makes it easier to cut the expense. If you know you want a vacation in a year and you want to save $200 a month for it, perhaps you can adjust some of your other spending. Maybe reduce the TV channels you have or don't watch. Maybe cut some subscriptions, as Ellen, mentioned. One thing that enough people don't do often enough is shop your car insurance. A lot of people have the same insurance for 5 or 10 years and keep paying the premiums, but insurers will, after a year or two, start raising your rates just because a lot of people will continue paying them without shopping them. You need to shop your automobile insurance at least every 2 years.
It depends on what state you're in too. I mean,
well, most
you can
every
get
insurance
a lot
company will
cheaper.
just automatically, increase your rates over
No,
and
I
above
meant
what
just
they do for that
for the.
class.
That's not what I was talking about. I was meant the decreased rates. So you can get a lot better rates in different states. Than never mind.
Yeah,
I'll
but
shut
most
up.
people can't move, but you can usually get a better rate, after a few years if you shop your insurance generally. Not always, but generally.
What was 20 again? Says cheerful.
Oh, the 50/30/20 savings and debt repayment. So 20%, and all of those are percentages of your net take home pay. Brentwood, instead of paying myself first, I'm too focused on paying off student loans. The way the interest compounds is stupid, but I'm not bitter.
I think you are. I am too.
Maybe
It's all
a
right.
little perturbed. And the idea is with your student loans, remember, Ellen a few minutes ago alluded to, you have a really big payment every month. That, lowering your expenses can be good, not just because you don't have the expense anymore, but a lot of times it's a big stress relief. You've got more money left over at the end of the month. And what is peace of mind worth?
Everything.
So there are times when you'll have certain priorities that aren't necessarily financial. and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, the whole goal of this channel is to try to help you make better decisions, but and the way you make better decisions is making informed decisions. If you know what your choices are, if you know what the ultimate cost, good, bad, or indifferent is, that's all I want. It's easy for me to sit here and list out, prescriptions for this, this, and this. But let's face it, they're not going to work in every individual's case.
Not
That's
in
one thing difficult about offering advice.
not in every situation. Everything is unique. We don't know what's going on in your life. We don't know if you're single, if you're married, if you have kids, if you don't, if you have college debt, if you don't, if you have a degree, if you don't, if you have a skill that you're using to make money, we don't know.
You may have health issues, family health
Hmm.
issues, whatever. So the advice I offer online, on the channel or whatever, I freely admit is modestly generic. If y'all
And
have
that's why,
something specific you want to ask me about, if you can do it on the show, do that. Or if you want to, email me. Now, I'm not a registered investment advisor, so I cannot offer specific investment advice. I can tell you, given those circumstances and that information, what I would do, but I can't, quote unquote, make a specific recommendation for you.
and I'm trying to get Clay to go on Connect for a much cheaper price than others, but we can discuss that later.
Yeah, whatever that is. Um,
Okay.
again, I can't offer specific investment advice. I'm no longer a registered investment advisor, and I'm not, I was going to, and maybe I'll do it Tuesday night. I've seen some ads on some of the social media from these people, shilling their investment, quote unquote, investment or insurance firm. And they talking about, I'm a registered investment advisor, which means I have a fiduciary responsibility to act in your best interest. Yeah, how would I describe that in as few words as possible? Bullshit.
I can out. They are going
The
to sell you whatever's going to make them the most money. Period.
the idea of a fiduciary responsibility, they can, I mean, these people can come up with any reason.
Mhm.
I thought at the time this was a safer investment. I thought at the time this was a better quality investment. I thought at the time this was a better fit for the goals that they had given me. Was I wrong? I mean, it's what I
But
thought. So I was acting in your best interest, even though this one paid me 10 times what the alternative did. I was still acting in your best interest. So they can always come up with a reason as to why they are fulfilling their fiduciary responsibility. The only real possible action you could have against them is if you can ever prove that they committed outright fraud. So this whole selling point about I'm acting in your best interest, anybody that uses that as a selling point for you to sign with them, that's a
it's
huge red
bullshit.
flag to me. Yeah, that's a huge red flag to me.
What would I know we talked
But
about
I'll
this at
probably
one
throw
point,
some of that up Tuesday.
but I know you had some questions. It may have been a past stream, but if you're going to get an investment advisor, what would you ask?
Well, first of all, I would ask, is he fee or commissioned? Um,
What's the
fee
difference?
fee means he just charges you a flat fee per year or per hour for the advice he gives you. He has no financial interest in anything he recommends.
That's
So,
huge.
like if I were to recommend you get a life insurance policy, I might recommend this agent that I know and I trust. You're free to go to him. You can go to someone else. And I'll tell you, I would recommend a 10-year term. and go see what he has. This agent would quote you a 10-year term, and you can shop it around with others. But if you buy that insurance from him, I don't receive a dime. He doesn't pay me a thing. He doesn't bring me a bottle of scotch. He doesn't take me out to lunch. Nothing. I receive nothing from him. So I would want to know if he has any financial incentive in his recommendations to me, or
Yeah.
like a fee only. I'll tell you what I think, what I suggest. You still owe me my fee, whether or not you do it.
Yeah.
So
That's
I'd want to
bullshit.
know. I'd want to know their compensation. I'm not sitting here saying that everybody who works on commission is a liar, thief, cheat, or whatever, but you have a right to know what they're being paid based on the decisions you make. And if you know this one annuity will pay them 10% of what you invest versus investing in a mutual fund that will pay them 0.5% per year, you should know that.
Or nothing, and you can do it by
Or
yourself.
nothing, you can do it by yourself, but you owe them their fee before their
No.
suggestion, guidance, whatever. So you ought to know how they're compensated. Secondly, you want to know their history. How well trained are they? Have they completed various certifications? What's their education in? Do they
Clay,
have expertise in the area?
can you ask them what their average return is per year for their customers? Is that fair?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
they ought to be able to document it.
Okay.
Like I would have mail outs that I would mail to general clients, or quotes that I would send to accountants who were reviewing the account. So I would list the accountant's name. I would blank out the customer's name. And of course the accountant would know I would do this, and he would be on my list of references. I would have a list of references who were non-clients, people who saw my work representing other people. Thirdly, does this person mind you asking questions or reviewing your work? I had a room in my office just for one reason. If a client ever wanted his accounting or accounting firm to audit his funds portfolio, they could come in, have this room. I would take their files, drop off in there. I'd be available to answer questions, but they do their own work. I don't pay them. I'm not going to pay for the audit. That's on the customer's dime. But I had a room, and I would supply them every file and, show them anything on the computer that
God,
they
don't
want.
you wish the government would do that?
I tried to be relatively open, and I not only didn't mind if my clients did that, I would encourage them to. I never feared somebody evaluating my work. Not that it was always perfect or whatever, but
I don't think anyone that's human is perfect. I remember even when I was doing hair, I would tell people, like, please go to someone else. Try them out. Have fun. Like, if I'm not the person for you, then most of them came back. But,
so
it's
those,
just
so those are
being
the three
open and
things I would
honest.
look
Yeah.
for. Okay.
Melissa has a comment.
Melissa, my parents' financial advisor reached out to my brother and I during the pandemic, and in that conversation said in order to start investing, you would need $1,000 minimum.
10,000 or okay, 1,000. Okay.
Yeah.
He just wanted your damn money. It was pandemic.
Yeah, I won't
Sorry.
I won't judge his motives, but I can show you how to get in some damn good equity funds with $50 a month. So, um, and no commissions, no
It's
fees,
all on
whatever.
you.
It's all
Yeah.
on you. You'll open the account. You'll never list my name, go through my website, anything. So there are
Yes.
oftentimes better alternatives.
Much better. And anybody that says that to you, especially during the pandemic, that is just sketchy as hell, in
Well,
my opinion.
again, I'm not going to judge, somebody's motive. I'm just saying there's actually other alternatives. Now, if you've got, um, your income, your expenses, and your goals. The goals help you control your spending. You prioritize what's important to you. And, some people do have trouble controlling their spending. I once had a doctor friend, really wasn't specifically a client of mine, but a friend, and he just, bless his heart, he couldn't keep a budget. It just was absolutely foreign to him, impossible. He was so busy, his mind was elsewhere. He just oftentimes didn't think about what he was doing. And he loved to spend. Great guy, good-natured guy. But I'll give you an example. For Valentine's Day, instead of buying his wife roses, he bought her a greenhouse a- and 100 rose bushes. And that's kind of what he was talking to me about, was how to care for the rose bushes. But he simply couldn't contain his spending, and he was nearing having trouble. Both him and his wife were kind of stressed, and we talked about it briefly, and told him I might be able to help him, have some suggestions. So I gave him and his wife a simple recommendation that has proven helpful to a few others over the past decades as well. I sat down with him and his wife, and all of his bank statements, credit card payments for the last 3 months, and worked out a budget that they both could live with on paper, ideally. But we all knew that he couldn't, because he wasn't focused on spending. He just didn't really, his mind didn't work in that way. But the really fun part is that I brought a pack of envelopes with me. And I told his wife to take his check. He wasn't to deposit his check, his wife was. Get her involved in the process.
Cash it.
Leaving enough for the automatic drafts and, fixed payments, his mortgage, car payment, whatever. And put the remaining cash, in envelopes, each labeled with a category. Like, one would be for entertainment, one would be for groceries, one would be for, gas, whatever. So when that envelope was empty, that was all the spending for that month in that category. No more spending in that month. So what ended up happening was they found out after a couple of months using cash this way with the envelopes, because they really dreaded having an empty envelope. They found out they had money left over in the envelopes each month. It just made them much more conscious of what they
And
were
aware.
spending, aware of what they were
Yeah.
spending. And people hate spending cash more than they do handing over their credit card, studies show. So they didn't even drive as much. Instead of her just hopping in the car to run out to go pick up, one thing at the store, she would wait till she needed several items. She would wait till she was out for another trip or whatever. So they didn't even drive as much. Their monthly gas expenses dropped. They started doing cheaper things instead of buying expensive entertainment tickets. They would go for more walks, which, they actually ended up really enjoying. So I think it not only eased their financial pressures, but made them happier in a number of different ways. They felt more in control, each having their role and contribution. And so I
That's
recommend
important.
envelopes. Yeah.
It's
If you,
important to know that as a couple that you are both contributing to what's going on
because the
And
negative effects impact both.
mhm.
Clay accepts all. I'll accept all puppy kisses.
Well, because Melissa said
Yes.
we can pay you commission and punk kisses.
I don't remember the specific episode of I Love Lucy, but that was a damn cool show, I will admit.
They started selling roses. Y'all, we got roses.
I think they ended up killing roses, but we won't go into all that.
Speaking of roses, though, ours are doing quite well. All the 7 bushes that we have now.
Yes.
Correct?
And remember, most of those are heritage. Most of those were my father's roses that I've
That are
taken with
like
me everywhere I moved.
70 years old.
Yeah. So
that I saved. I saved for you. You're welcome. And your life a couple times, but it's okay.
Yeah, I'll give Ellen a round of applause.
Golf clap.
She actually did. I kind of kid about it, but it was right after my knee surgery. We were out on the beach and the waves were 4 feet high, maybe 3-4 feet high, kind that would knock you off balance.
Maybe 2, but we'll give you 4. They were 4
all right,
feet.
I'm going with 3.
Definitely. Okay.
And, can't say I was really expecting the lack of feeling and control with my legs. Didn't know my balance was off that bad per se. And so these waves were knocking me over and I couldn't get up. And so, Ellen's kind of there next to me. So she picks me up. So that is her contribution to saving my life. So,
and the diabetes at 500. Blood sugar.
Blood sugar was a little high.
A little high.
Oh, another thing on spending is credit card.
There we go. Yeah.
Back on topic.
Moving on. Moving on. No, you just hate talking about all
another thing is credit card expenses. It's far easier to overspend using credit cards because most people forget what they buy using a credit card and they don't realize it till they get the statement at the end of the month. It's easy to charge something on a card and forget about it until you receive the bill. When this happens repeatedly and in, somewhat sizable amounts, it's best to undergo plastic surgery. And by plastic surgery, I mean cut up the card.
The shit up. Yeah.
Do not close the account. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we start talking about credit scores. But cut the card up. Do not close the account.
Could close the account until it was paid off.
Well, I'm talking about even if you have a 0 balance.
Oh, yeah, because I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after you do that, you've got your net income, your expenses, you've got them categorized. You have set goals. This is what I want to do. This is, my top priority. So let's deal with this first. Then plan. Okay. Some of your needs may actually be wants. Maybe over time you find out you can reduce them like, this couple did. But having the goals will let you plan on how best to achieve those goals. You prioritize your spending, you prioritize what's important to you, and you start taking care of first things first. There's simply nothing to lose in this process and everything to gain by controlling your money, by taking control of your life and not being subject to the unknown or the whimsical. I mean, nothing will add pressure to you, your family, whatever, like financial pressure. And again, I know many of you are struggling, working 2, 3 jobs. We've talked about in the past the number of people that are working 2 or more full-time jobs. I know some of you are working full time and any number of part time jobs or other full time jobs. There is very little I can say about that except to express my admiration for you. Um, we've been there, and I know your time is precious to you. So I would still encourage you to detail your spending and examine the possibilities of cutting spending, getting insurance with higher deductibles, for example, using coupon apps, cutting cable expenses, whatever. There is a list of, well, let me see here. This link is not working. Let's try this. That's better. Here is a website. Ellen actually sent it to me when she found out the topic, clevergirlfinance.com, cutting the budget. But here's a list of expenses to cut back. And they just, they go through list and they talk about, cook at home more often, doing meal plans to reduce grocery expense, cash back and coupon apps, cut cable, switch cell phone plans. A lot of people are overpaying for their cell phone plan. Cancel unused subscriptions. Obviously, stick with used car. The car you have now, 95% of the time will be the cheapest car you ever own. Even with some maintenance. Now, if it's getting to the point where it breaks down all the time, and obviously you've got to make a change there, but normally the car you've got now is the cheapest car you'll ever own. Implement a 24-hour rule for spending. I've done this for most of my life. If I'm going to spend more than $50, I sleep on it. And it's amazing the number of expenses I forget about or decide I don't need to undertake. So 24-hour rule. Shopping secondhand, thrift stores. Find a thrift store that's near a well-to-do area, and they'll have generally pretty nice stuff. Have a no-spend month. Just take 1 month and say, I'm not going to eat out. I'm not going to buy anything but the necessities. And, try to save up a chunk of money that you can use to achieve your main goal. Sell unused items. I did not know this. The average American household has about 300,000 items in it. I don't know who counted that. That seems huge to me, but nonetheless, there it is. If you love to read, and I love to read, get a library card. Reduce utilities, turn off lights, shut doors. Some people have a tremendous, not going to mention any names, but some people have a tremendous problem with that.
Excuse me. Let the dogs out real quick, but 300,000 items. You have way more than that in this house. I'm just saying.
Also, you can unsubscribe from marketing emails, refinance high interest loans. This can be even with your credit cards. Sometimes you can call the credit card companies. If you've been a good customer, had the card for quite a while, maybe have other services through the bank. Sometimes you can call them and say, listen, this rate is stupid. Can you do something about it? And sometimes they will, down from 25, 29% to maybe, 18 or 16%. Everything helps. Shop around for insurance. So it's just a list of things that you can do to help you cut here and there. Again, save $1 a day in terms of personal savings, but even beyond that, look to save $2, $3, $4 a day on expenses if you can, on average. Most people can end up doing something. For those of you, again, that are jammed to the gills and working multiple jobs, bottom line, not much I can say, but I do admire the hell out of the grind. Admire you for doing that. I really do. Truly do. So here, Melissa, Lucy is my kind of creative accountant. She bought groceries for neighbors who paid her in cash. She put those groceries on their monthly tab, but then she then she had extra cash to spend. Not a bad plan if you can do it. Brentwood, just cut my cable bill by over $100 by reducing channels. Realize I watch only a handful and the streaming service for those is only a few bucks. Bingo. Really sitting down and taking a good look at your expenses, seeing where your money goes. Most people really have very little idea where their money goes. Knowing that and looking at that versus what you're able to save or spend on your goals is a big deal. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I see I'm freezing up a little bit here. So let me try to kill some things in the background. Anyway, so that's budgeting. That's the budgeting process. Hope that, ends up being of some help to some of you. Second question, another question we got, or comment, topic for discussion, I'll get it right in a minute, is credit scores and how to improve them. Well, some of you may not be aware of what a credit score is or how they work. So let's take a minute and review that. I do believe everyone should know what their credit score is and how to improve it. It can save you a ton of money over time. First of all, credit score is a replacement for the community bank manager. Remember in the movie It's a Wonderful Life, you had George Bailey, played by Jimmy Stewart. I love this movie, actually. He was facing a run on his bank. And Ellen's sitting here bringing chocolates and things to munch. And I'm like, I'm sure I could be I'm doing a show. So anyway, in this movie, George Bailey is a banker and he's facing a run on his bank. A run on his bank is when all the depositors in the bank are concerned about their money. So they run to the bank to try to withdraw their money. And banks simply cannot afford runs because they take your money and they lend it out. They don't have it in the bank. They're using it to make money that they charge interest on. It's where they make their money and pay you interest on your deposit. So they don't have your money. They keep a small amount in cash for those everyday needs and withdrawals or, occasional bigger withdrawals. And if you tell them, I need my $1 million, tomorrow, they can raise it.
Don't try to grab this out of my hand.
Okay. Now, the movie, Bailey is facing a run. So he has all these people in his bank that are wanting their money because they're scared the bank's going to fail and they won't be able to get their money. So he calmly steps up on the desk and starts talking to all the people, the hundreds of people crowded in the bank. He knew them by name. He knew their kids, their family. He knew their jobs. He knew their history. He made a loan to them personally. He knew who they were. He knew he was lending money to. He knew their character and determination to pay the bank back for the loan. Now, we've talked repeatedly about how banks can't take losses. They don't handle losses well. They're not designed to. They need people to pay them back in order for them to stay in business. So George Bailey made loans based on people's character and their determination to pay him back. Well, in a nutshell, that kind of banker is gone. No longer exists. Most of you don't even know who your bank manager is anymore. He definitely doesn't, unless it's a fluke. He definitely doesn't know you, where you work, your history with the bank, all these kind of things. He doesn't know your determination to pay the bank back if you borrow money. So how does the bank make the determination of which borrowers to lend to and which ones not to?
Credit score.
They are, how do they judge your character? Well, like Ellen just threw out, credit score. Credit score is actually a measure of your character, your determination to pay back loans, how you handle your borrowings. So the higher the credit score, the highest is 850 in a system called FICO, FICO. And the higher the score, the more confidence the bank can have that you'll pay them back. And the more they're willing to lend to you at a lower interest rate. Okay. So the lower your score, the higher the interest rate you'll pay because you're a greater risk. There's more financial uncertainty in your history as far as your discipline, determination, and ability to pay back your loans. So the bankers look at that lower credit score and go, they're more of a risk to lend to.
I'm sorry, I'm just eating chocolate.
To increase your odds of approval and for a lower rate mortgage, you want to have a score in what's considered to be the good range. That's for FICO. Remember, 850 is the highest. A good range is considered to be 670 and above. Now, the minimum credit score needed to get a home mortgage is generally around 500, 550. And some of that depends on the type of loan you're getting. Federal home loans require at least 500, hence the base. But you have to put down 10%. Or if you have a score of 580 or above, you can put down 3.5%. VA don't have a minimum credit score generally, but normally they want you to have at least a 620 or higher, or they won't make the loan. So that gives you a little bit of background on what is FICO, what is a credit score. So how to improve it? If yours is low and you want to improve it, well, we're going to start again with the basics. 1, check your score. Know what your score is. You can contact there are 3 big agencies that track everything you borrow, all your credit history. And they calculate this score, and then a potential loaner will contact them with your permission for your credit score. And that's how they determine whether or not to make you a loan. So these 3 big agencies are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Mm-hmm. You can contact them directly and ask them for a credit report, and they'll send you a free one once a year showing all your borrowings and showing your score. Now, you want to go through these borrowings and make sure that all of them are yours. It's not uncommon for them to have made a mistake and attributed somebody else's loan to your account. And if that happens, that will probably lower your score.
It will. It's a bitch to reverse that.
It is difficult to reverse, but the first step is get your credit history from these 3, because each one may have different information. So, and you never know who the lender is using to provide the score. So get one from each, look for any errors or accounts which are not yours. Then you begin the dispute process. Again, it won't be fast, but it's something that you need to do. Now, secondly, you want to pay on time and pay more than the minimum. Just paying the minimum will hurt your credit score. Also, on-time payments are a huge factor to the score. You've got to make them on time. If you make them late, that's going to hurt your score.
But if you can't, call them and let them know, because that does help. They will actually give a little leniency towards people who will contact them and tell them why they can't pay, what's going on. That is a huge plus. Do not ignore
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Don't try to evade them.
Mm-mm.
Work with them. And if you're the first one to call them, you have generally a whole lot more flexibility.
Absolutely.
Another big factor in the credit score is the percentage of debt on your credit card accounts to your total credit limit. So if you have a credit card with a $5,000 limit and you've got $1,000 on it, that's 20%. If you have $2,500 out of the five, that's 50%. So they aggregate all these, calculate your average percentage. They want to see it generally 30% or below. If it's at 30% or higher, they will hit you pretty hard. If it's above 15%, they'll hit you some. 10% below is ideal.
Yeah, I
Now,
had like great credit, and then I got another card, and it went up, and I'm like, what? What's going on?
yeah, that's another thing. If you can, if you want to try to, improve your score, one thing you can do is get a new card, put $25 on it to activate it, and then pay that off as soon as you get the bill, then put the card away. And you've got additional credit balance. Now, keep in mind, this is a plus minus kind of deal because for every new card you get, you make what is called a hard inquiry. Somebody checks your credit history for the purposes of a loan application. That's considered a hard inquiry. That will lower your score just a tad.
So not too many at once.
Yeah. So don't do more than one. If you do 2 or 3 at the same time, they're going to know that, and that'll really drop your score because they think you're being desperate. That's never a good sign.
What about the companies that say they've already checked your credit, it's pre-approved?
Those are soft, and they shouldn't count against you.
Okay.
Soft checks don't count against you. So if companies are just randomly, you've been a customer of theirs for a year, 2 years, they just want to check your credit standing, but you have no applications in with them, that's considered a soft check. That shouldn't count against your credit score.
If they want to give you a credit card, are they going to then do a hard check or no?
No.
Okay.
No. Once they do a soft check, if they like the score, they send you out a credit offer for a new credit card. You can accept. That won't hurt your score.
Cool.
So credit scores. If you have cards and spend more than you should, rather than close the account. Now, I know that there are some advisors out there like Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey absolutely hates debt. I'm not to that extent, but he would be like, close down the account. And I'm like, don't close down the account. If you don't want to use that credit card anymore, cut the card up. Put the card away. Save it for a rainy day or emergency. At least you've got it if you need it. But don't close the account because closing the account will hurt your credit score. It's stupid. But the idea is if you have always paid cash, have handled your bills absolutely perfectly, great responsibility, never borrowed, and then you decide you want a loan, you probably can't get it because you have no loan history. You have no credit score.
You got to have some kind of credit history.
Yeah.
It's something.
So
within the past, 10 years?
Yeah, that's why I say, get a card, get a couple cards, put $25 on it, pay it off the next month, and then put them away. Even if you don't necessarily want to use credit, you may at some point need that credit score, need some sort of good history. Because remember, to a bank, that's your measure of character. They don't know what your character is without that. if you have, like I mentioned previously, if you've been with them for a while, paying a high interest rate, oftentimes you can call them and get them to lower the rate. That every little bit helps if you can get your rate lowered.
And tell them what's going on. Do
Yeah.
not ever dismiss the phone calls. Don't hide from them. Just communicate
Yeah.
with them, and your
I,
odds are so much better.
yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say you're struggling. I would just say, I've been a customer with you for 10 years, don't have any late payments. You've got my savings account. You've got my checkings account. You're charging me 30% on this credit card. That's just stupid. Now, I'd like to keep the card balance with you, but if you don't want my business, I'll transfer it to another lower interest rate card. What can you do for me on the interest rate?
And
Never
they're important.
volunteer information that you don't have to volunteer.
Clay said he'll never go with me to buy a car
Yeah.
because I talk too much.
It's not that she talks too much. She just says things that don't necessarily help you in a negotiating position.
It did not hurt.
There is an art to negotiating. It's not a art or skill that everybody possesses.
But the last purchase, we got the price I wanted. So
it's not because you didn't try.
come on.
So in terms of paying off credit cards, I mentioned that we would get to this a little bit later in terms of paying off credit cards. Normally, I would suggest you pay off the higher interest rate first. This is Chunkers getting his time. Got to get his TV time.
For a little bit of time now. He wants it.
He wants on the desk so bad. He loves to be on the desk. I don't know why.
But you can't see him because he's
Yeah.
a real black shadow.
So normally I would start off with the highest rate card first. But there are times when you might have other opportunities. For example, if you have a car payment at $400 or $500 a month, but you've only got 3 months left on it, it's at 8%. You've got $5,000 on a credit card that you want to pay off, it's at 25%. Sometimes I might take my additional money and pay off the car first, because right now I'm paying $500 for the car, $300 on the credit card. Not making a whole lot of progress on the credit card, which is what I want to get paid off. Well, if I knock out that $500 payment, one, that's a huge relief to me, because all of a sudden my available income goes up $500, which is probably pretty significant. And I can take all or most of that and then start applying it toward the credit card. So if I keep that car payment, for another, 4 months, then I'm not going to be able to contribute a whole lot extra to the credit card anyway. I might be able to pay it down $1,000, but 5,000 versus 4,000, my interest cost is, reduced by $5-10 a month. Plus, if I get hit with some other emergency or problem in the next month or two, I don't have the additional $500 a month to help cover it. So for flexibility, for liquidity, for just having financial burdens eased off of you, sometimes I would want to take out the higher installment payment first before I attack the higher credit card. Does that make sense? I hope so. Just saw this comment by Melissa. Great film. Melissa is our movie expert, so she says it's a great film. That means a lot. My opinion in this area doesn't near rank next to Melissa's. You need to create a Discord so we can have watch parties. Can you watch it simultaneously on Discord? That might be a good reason to create Discord, actually. Just have good old movie watching night. I like some old movies. I know sometimes the acting, the special effects, whatever, are a little bit off, but they're just, to me, the plot, the thought, the writing is oftentimes far, far better. I just have an appreciation for them. Melissa, apparently, yes, that would be cool. I'll have my marketing manager when she gets back from taking the dogs out, look at putting up a Discord. Poll will close in 5 minutes. Get your vote in. For those of you who are not aware, we do have a poll going in terms of what would you rather have your Social Security tax money go to? Continue it with Social Security or put it in a fund that you control for your retirement, specifically set aside for your retirement. Next question dealt with taxes. Taxes is always kind of an ugly topic, but got some questions in terms of, it is tax season and, how to handle your taxes, when to file for deferment, those kind of things. So let's take a minute and just go through the basic tax information. Now, unfortunately, most of this information will apply only to the Americans, not to the internationals. Humble apologies. Your country probably does something completely worse, and I wouldn't be terribly shocked if it wasn't wholly better. Just laughing at Melissa and Brentwood. Melissa's threatening to close the poll in 5 minutes. Melissa observes, Brentwood is strict, just like an old school marm. But we love you, Brentwood. Really appreciate. Brentwood is the moderator, and she really is a huge help to us. We dearly love and appreciate her efforts. Taxes. This shows the most common tax form. And some people are scared of doing taxes. Well, if you've got just a salary, the taxes are actually pretty easy for you to do and fill out directly. Now, if you have a salary, you will receive what's called a 1099. Now, there are several different types of 1099. I actually should have gotten the salary one, but it'll look just like this. This is interest income, 1099 int. There's 1099 for dividends, for, rent, all sorts of things, but they're all the same form. You've got whoever pays you, you've got your name and address, you've got the amount of salary, of rent, of interest income, of dividends paid to you. Then you've got the federal income tax that was withheld. Okay. Keep those in mind. Then down here, you've got an account number, your tax ID number for the company that paid you. If you file electronically, you'll need some of that type of information. But if you just file via mail, you don't really need that. So we know where the income comes from. We know the amount of taxes that were withheld. So boom, we've got that. The rest of this is just kind of flows from that. You've got your name, whether you're filing single or married or head of household. Head of household is you're unmarried, but like you've got kids that you're responsible for, or dependents, legal dependents that you're taking care of. Can anybody else claim you, or are you independent? And then you list your dependents and their social security number and their relationship to you. Now, that amount I told you from W-2 box 1, the 1099 goes right here, your salary. Then if you have, most of these I won't go through, it'd just be tedious because most people don't have them. If you took out any from an IRA, you can go down this and you can read it. If you get any Social Security benefits, all that flows in there. Total it up, total income. Then you subtract line 10 from line 9. The adjustments from Schedule 1 would be like if you made an IRA contribution. So now here you take what's known as a standard deduction. And the standard deductions have blown up since the 2018 Act. For a married couple, the standard deduction is $27,000 and change. For single, it's 13, 14,000. So you subtract that from your this adjusted, and you get taxable income. So that's pretty easy. You really got 3 lines to fill out. Once you have your taxable income, then you can go to the tax table that's provided by the IRS and say you have, $21,000 in taxable income. So here is the row I'm interested in, 21,000 to 2150. If my income falls in that amount, in that range, and I'm single, I owe $2,300 in taxes. If I'm married, I owe $2,100 in taxes. Okay. If I'm head of household, I owe $2,209 in taxes. Wow. So I put that here under tax. Now, for those who have children, you get additional deductions possibly. You may have some other deductions. Most of this doesn't apply to most people, so I won't go through that. Then you take from your 1099 how much in tax has been withheld. Again, this is a straight plug and play. So you know the tax you owe, you know how much you've paid, and that difference, if you have paid more than what you owe, you get a refund. If you have paid less than what you owe, then you have an amount owed. It's that simple. So really for the average worker or employee, straight salary, there's 5 or 6 lines you have to fill out. It's pretty straightforward.
We got 2 comments. Melissa, I thought head of household was better than filing. Yes, I thought so too.
It is it depends on if you have enough dependents. That's the dependent deduction that lowers your taxes. For example, remember I talked about the standard deduction. If you're married, your standard deduction is $27,000 and change. If you're single, it's $13,000 and change. So that changes your amount of taxable income. So you wouldn't have the same taxable income vis-a-vis being single or head of household. But head of household isn't as strong of a deduction as being married.
And Brentwood, 85% on the poll mutual fund.
And 14% keep with the government. I mean, the choice for me would be clear. I could have a much better retirement if I had 40 years and could invest the money from Social Security in a private IRA. Wouldn't even be close.
And you don't, Melissa, have to actually be married to file married.
Yeah, again, we don't want to give out specific tax advice to anybody here. We just are, basically going through the general forms. If you are over 65, there is 1040 SR. Now, it used to be there was 1040 EZ, 1040A, depending on your levels of income and whatever. It was kind of complicated. So the 2018 Act did away with all that. You've got 1040 and 1040 SR. The 1040 SR is for seniors. If you're 65 or over. 2 big differences. One, you'll notice the print's a lot bigger. 1040, 1040 SR. So the print's a lot bigger. Secondly, this form will include a additional deduction for seniors. I think a senior filing married gets an additional $1,900 in deductions. So it lowers your income, taxable income by $1,900.
One more question.
Even having no dependents, it always seemed to me that head of household was still better. It is if you can file as head of household. I forget what the specific requirements are.
It has gotten a little more specific recently in the past 10
Yeah.
years.
Again, I don't want to get into offering specific tax advice because that can be fraught with dangers that I don't want to incur. But
This is not financial advice. This
yeah,
is
if you
just
want, if
opinions.
you have a specific question, I'll find, kind of a link, try to explain it as best I can, and in an email correspondence or DM with you.
Thank
But
you, Bradley. This is not financial advice.
yeah, but just want to be judicious in what I say and how I say it. Now, depending on your income, you may also qualify for what is known as the Earned Income Tax Credit, EIC. For example, after taking your salary, subtracting out your standard deduction, which, standard deduction, I used to itemize deductions like property taxes, home interest, charitable contributions, property taxes on my cars. So I would deduct all those because that would be a larger deduction than the personal deduction. But the 2018 Act raised the personal deduction up so high. Let me get rid of the squeaky toy there. That's a little annoying.
Chunk is trying to de-squeak his crocodile.
Yeah, take him out.
Come on, let's go.
Sorry about that.
Come on. You too. Oh, you can stay.
So it did away with the it didn't do away with those deductions. They're still available, but it raised the you can take either the itemized deductions or the standard deduction. And the standard deduction is $27,000 if you're married, filing married. So unless you have $27,000 in interest, medical bills, charitable contributions, property taxes, you're better off taking the standard deduction. So, but if your income after your salary less the deductions, itemized or standardized, is say $4,000, then if you have to have, you don't have to have, but you can file for the earned income credit. So you've got single and you've got married. These 0, 1, 2, 3 are the number of dependents you have living in your house. Don't know if y'all can see that, but 0, 1, 2, 3. So like if I make my taxable income is $4,000 after my deductions, I get a credit of $1,800. So the government will mail me a check for $1,800. I've zeroed out my taxes. I don't owe any taxes. Plus, I get $1,800. So that's the earned income credit. And the more your income goes up,
yeah, back up.
Hold on. If I go up to, $18,500, whoops. My earned income credit, if I'm married with 3 kids, is about $7,400. So it can vary depending on your income.
No, you can get the same line you were on.
4,000.
Single head of household was less.
Yeah, $4,000 in taxable income. If I'm married, 3 kids, I get $1,800. If I'm single with 3 kids, I get $1,800. The flip side is
if you're head of household, you get $551.
That's with $1,200 in income.
Oh, okay. Where's the head of household for that one?
Right here, same as single.
Okay.
But the difference is in the deductions you get. So head of household may end up with more deductions than somebody filing single. So it lowers their taxable income.
Melissa has a question.
What do we have to do for animals to be dependents? Because they totally are.
Like this one.
I would say get better representatives in office.
Vote better.
Vote better. Yeah. Not that I think that will ever has much of a chance of happening, but I can think of a lot of pet owners that would be somewhat supportive and in agreement with you on that. So those are really the basics of filing a tax return. You know, even if you think your income is so low that you don't have to file, you still probably can get the earned income credit. So it may be worth you filing just to get the earned income credit, which can still be relatively sizable.
Yeah, and you'll still get money back.
Yeah.
I mean, because the IRS, even 2017 for me, they owed me like $2,000. I'll never get it because it's too long ago. But
Now, the question was raised or asked when to file for deferment. Deferment is basically saying I won't be able to file my taxes in time. So I'm requesting an extension to file. Now, you have until April the 15th to file your taxes. If you can't file them or are not going to file them by April the 15th, you need to request an extension, a deferment. It's granted automatically. You don't need to wait for any, consent or anything from the IRS. They grant them automatically if you file the form. You just have to mail that. It's a one-page form where basically you state, I'm requesting an extension, and you sign it and mail it in. As long as you do that by April the 15th, you're good. You won't owe any penalties or any additional interest.
Not even state-wise.
Yeah. But if you don't do it by then, you'll probably owe an additional penalty. So by all means, do it. In terms of when should you do it? Normally, I want to go ahead and get taxes over with. But there have been occasions where there is some uncertainty. I might have, additional investment properties. I'm having trouble getting numbers. Maybe the accountant who's doing the taxes, one year I had to file, it was like a 50-page tax return. So there may be complications in getting all the data or information necessary. So you may have to file for an extension. An extension, I believe, will grant you until September. Don't hold me on that.
August.
Maybe it's the end of August, 1st of September. I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly. So don't hold me to that. But it gives you, a number of months, 3, 4, 5 months to file your taxes. If you have a legitimate reason, you can file for another extension. Now, oftentimes people say, if you're getting a refund, you're doing it wrong because you basically made the government an interest-free loan for a year or part of a year. Good and bad. There have been years when I've gotten a refund. I'm always glad to get a refund. There have been years when I owe additional tax. That makes me just madder. Not going to lie. When I have to, when I've paid what I think is a ton of taxes and I have to pay still more, just psychologically, that's highly irritating to me. So, what to do? It is making an interest-free loan. The government is not going to pay you interest on whatever they refund to you. If you don't pay enough tax and you earn the same amount or less than you did the year before, the government will charge you interest. So it doesn't work both ways, but nevertheless, I've seen some people want to kind of overpay their taxes a little bit every month so they get a refund. It's kind of like a forced savings plan. They may not have the discipline to take $50 or $100 a month and put it aside. They probably would blow it in spending. Whereas if they get a check for $1,000 at the end of the year, they can take it and put it aside, or they will take it and put it aside. So it can be kind of a forced savings plan. But if you are strapped for cash on a monthly basis, this is an area you want to take a look at. Estimate your income and taxes. There's some online websites that'll help you do that. And then adjust your withholding, the amount of tax withheld from your salary. And it may increase your monthly take home. Do so carefully, because for many people, having to come up with additional money in April to pay their taxes can be really difficult.
Especially when most people are paying their taxes through January, February, March, and half of April.
Yeah, but if you're strapped, having to come up with an extra few $100 or $1,000 to pay additional tax may be difficult in April. You might could have, funded it better or not missed it as much by doing it every month. So just be careful with that.
What if you put that money into like a mutual fund or something that was more high yield?
There's a little bit of a risk to that because the stock market may be down. You may have less money.
Sure.
So, you could put it in treasury bills and earn 5%, but on $1,000, 5% is $50. That's if it's in it for a whole year, but you would start off with, $100 a month. So it would be even less than that.
Okay.
Now, so does that make sense? If I say something that doesn't make sense, please don't hesitate to let me know or ask a question. I know what I intend to say. I know what I want to say, but let me know. And if you have some other questions, let me know. Thank you, Brentwood. You are great.
Carson's finally caught up.
Well, Carson, we missed you. Ellen had to try to deflect all on her own. She had some severe challenges.
I did, and I get shut down a lot quicker than you do, Carson. So,
No, she doesn't. She just thinks she does. But any other questions? I notice we are a little bit long in the tooth. Had a few more questions people ask, but we may try to address some of those Tuesday night. And there's some things been going on in the market. It's kind of interesting. One thing that I did want to throw out is the Bitcoin ETF. Mentioned the other couple of weeks ago how the amount of money flowing into Bitcoins has really blown up due to this ETFs that have become available, kind of like mutual funds, but they trade during the day, unlike a mutual fund that's only priced at the end of the day. But there's a risk to these. And the risk is that if the price of Bitcoin starts falling, it has vibrated pretty strongly over the past 10 years. If the price of Bitcoin starts falling, it's very possible that people will panic and start pulling their money out of the ETF immediately, causing an even bigger drawdown. So my concern, or it's not advice, it's just, something you ought to be aware of, is if you see Bitcoin starting to fall. Yeah, if you see Bitcoin starting to fall, you may want to try to be a little bit quicker and pull your money out.
Clay, can I ask you a question about this real quick?
Sure.
Do you think that the threat of government regulation on cryptocurrency is going to make a difference?
Short term, yeah, but long term, probably not.
If they regulate it, they know everything about it. They can get into all the stuff.
Well, there's what only thing they can do is regulate the banks and exchanges for Bitcoin.
They're trying to get
Bitcoin
actually
itself,
into Bitcoin.
they can't.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
They could, like on the
Because they're trying to regulate
tax return
There we
right
go.
here, they ask digital assets at any time during 2023, did you receive an reward, payment for property, or sell, exchange, or otherwise dispose of a digital asset? So they're trying to find out who all owns cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin. Well, you have to answer that honestly, or you're filing a fraudulent return. But in terms of them regulating Bitcoin, Bitcoin runs autonomously. Bitcoin runs without having to go through banks. So they can shut down banks' access to Bitcoin or transfers to Bitcoin, but people can still invest in Bitcoin through other means. And to me, the more government tries to stop Bitcoin, the bigger incentives people have to invest in Bitcoin.
kind of like Trump. The more the government tries to shut him down.
Well, we've seen that kind of response. The more he's been indicted and charged, the better his poll ratings are. So it's kind of the same thing. Once the government really moves towards something that most people don't see as illegal, immoral, or fattening, it makes it more attractive because they're like, why does the government want this shut down so bad? What do they hate about this so much? Carson, well, first, drawdown equal buying opportunity. Yes, as long as you didn't ride it all the way down. And, on this show, I'm very encouraging of people to control their losses. Particularly as you get older and get near retirement, you don't have those years to make up for a 40, 50% drop in the value of your assets. If you're 20 years old and you've got $1,000 in, a 40% drop isn't going to really hurt you that much.
That's like you telling me, like, time value of money. Like, if you have time, the market will come back up.
Yes.
If you don't have time, then before you see something fall, you've got to go ahead and take the cash out and take responsibility for your own stuff.
Yeah. The stupidest moments I've had investing are when I did not control my drawdowns. End of story. Carson, great topic idea, discussing the difference between Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, how that would make a difference from a regulatory perspective. That is a good idea, and we'll follow up on that.
Yeah, and Brentwood, Clay has an entire video where he discusses exactly how to, or exactly what crypto is, which might make you feel a little bit better about it. It's such a complicated currency to like a layman, but it's worth doing. It's worth watching that video to figure out exactly what it is, how it works, and what goes on while you're making notes. I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'm just literally writing down Carson's suggestion. Thank you, sir. Do appreciate that. I'm interested in Bitcoin, but scared to invest. You're not alone. A lot of people are. It is something new and different.
Excuse me.
And it's gotten a ton of bad press. Some people call it a Ponzi scheme. I mean, you've got you can call political opponents. I saw one girl talking about how she was calling political opponents fascist. And the guy interviewed her and said, why are you calling them fascist? She goes, well, I don't agree with them. And he says, what is a fascist? And she goes, well, I really don't know what a fascist is, but, it's just, that's what you call people who have bad opinions. So
listen, I am so sick of people just making or just taking these words and using them nonchalantly when they actually mean something to those of us who have lived through some of this stuff. And it's just like, what the hell are we teaching kids in school? Because this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Carson, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme.
Pretty much.
I agree. I referred to that several times. So, how would I define a Ponzi scheme? In a nutshell, it's all about the math. If you're taking money from someone and giving it to somebody else without their knowledge, you need more and more people in the system to create that value. That's where Bernie Madoff collapsed. He finally just kind of ran out of people and people started doubting his results. It's set up to deceive people from the very beginning. It's a fraud. And the operation of it, the mechanics of it, how the money is transferred, all of that is kept secret. So nobody understands really what they're getting or how they got these returns. Bitcoin isn't based off fraud, it's based off supply and demand, just like, a stock. You have got an asset that is readily convertible into other goods, services, or even cash. Every transaction on Bitcoin is publicly available. Now, the precise identity of the individuals doing it is almost impossible to determine. So it's both secret and public. But every transaction that Bitcoin is used for is quote unquote publicly available. So there's nothing kept secret. There's nothing there's nothing except a person's identity that is not transparent. So it has increased in value because more and more people understand it's a hedge against inflation. And at a time when most every international currency is being severely devalued, and by devalued, I mean will purchase less. The dollar purchases less today than it did 4 years ago, than it did 10 years ago, than it did 50 years ago. The euro, same thing. The yen, same thing. So that's what I mean by devaluing, is that inflation has wrecked its purchasing power. Well, Bitcoin, on the other hand, has increased its purchasing power, greatly increased its purchasing power, because more and more people are desirous of a transferable asset that can be transferred for very little cost, can be transferred almost immediately. That protects against inflation. Now, people go, well, it's been very volatile. It's been up and down. And yes, over, there's been a couple of 3-year periods where it would have lost money. But if you look at most every 5-year, 6-year, 7-year periods, it's way up. It's held its value plus some. Secondly, and I forget what I was going to say.
I didn't say anything.
No, she didn't.
It's usually my fault.
Usually she's distracting me or deflecting me, but no, I'm kidding. Ponzi scheme, Bitcoin. Oh, geez. I hate this.
Can I just
Go
interject
ahead.
one thing while you're thinking? So let's say you have a property, okay, and you need $20,000 to upgrade the property, to renovate it, whatever, and you inflate the value of the property a bit to get the loan, right? But someone has to come appraise it.
Does this have something to do with Bitcoin?
No.
Okay, let's wait. Bitcoin, I thought of the other thing. Bitcoin, for example, if I'm in Croatia or Azerbaijan or Thailand or whatever, and I want to transfer money, I have to contact my bank. I have to have all the different routing numbers information, and I give them the instructions, and they begin the transfer. It will take anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks for that money to hit whatever foreign bank I want to withdraw it out of. Plus, I'll have currency exchange, different currency exchange rates. I'll have fees, et cetera, et cetera. Bitcoin can handle that transaction probably in about 10 minutes. And the total fees are a fraction of a percent. And it translates directly into the currency that that I'm buying. There are tons of places internationally that will take it or cash it. So people go, well, it isn't a currency. Well, it depends on how you define currency. If you look at something that has salability, that people are willing to transfer for goods and services, if you look at its ability to handle to scale, I can use one Bitcoin, which will purchase just Bitcoin is divisible into 100,000 smaller units called Satoshis. It's like a dollar is divisible into 100 pennies. Well, I can buy as much with 100 pennies as I can with a dollar. That's salability according to scale, by scale. Bitcoin's the same way.
And fungible as well.
Yes. So I don't lose value by buying buying something with half a Bitcoin or 100th of a Bitcoin. It holds its value. The third aspect to money is it's portable. Gold. If I have a bar or a couple of bars of gold, it's not really that portable. And I can't walk into a grocery store in Croatia and buy a loaf of bread with a brick of gold. It's just not that transferable. It's not that portable. Even then, it has to be tested and assayed. They're not going to take my word that it's 99% gold.
It's not that fungible.
That's not exactly what fungible means.
I know, but you know what I'm saying.
They won't take my word on its purity. So that's why Bitcoin makes a good substitute currency. The way money is actually defined holds its value, scale, transferability. It meets or exceeds the dollar in all of those categories. Carson, not impossible, but it takes some resources to determine who someone is. Functionally impossible for most, not for government. Sure. Really, the only way government can do it is if somebody buys Bitcoin through their bank or one of the exchanges like Coinbase.
Not if they decide to regulate it?
Yeah, even if they regulate it. There are ways for me to buy Bitcoin that the government can't track or follow. When Bitcoin Lightning becomes more widespread, then we start talking instant transfer at almost no fees. Yep. Mm-hmm. And, quick, cheap, and accepted most everywhere. Now, Brentwood, I'm going to have to leave in a few. I've really enjoyed tonight. Brentwood is reminding us that we have waxed poetic for a little bit too long.
For 30 extra minutes.
So we're going to pause here. And I say pause because we'll be back Tuesday night and hope
some of these.
And hope that y'all will join us then. Real quick, Sky Ricky, what is Coinbase? Coinbase is a crypto exchange, kind of like Merrill Lynch is a crypto broker, kind of like Merrill Lynch is a stockbroker. Coinbase is a crypto broker. So you can transfer dollars from your bank to Coinbase and then use those to buy various kinds of crypto, including Bitcoin. Melissa with a great reminder, get to reading. We're having the book club coming up on the 16th of April, in which we will read Raptor Red. I don't.
We
What
won't read it. We're not going to read it. We're going to discuss it.
we're going to discuss it.
You got to read it beforehand.
Yes.
And we will do it on Zoom. We never do it on YouTube because we like to everyone be able to like actually speak when they want to, and can be anonymous if you wish or not if you wish. It's up to you. This will probably be our last book club that is non-member, right?
Possibly. Yeah, we'll see.
But we do want to do some things with we're going to start doing some things for members with recipes like making your own bread, butter, sour cream, all the things.
And book club ends up being fun. It really does. It's a good discussion, and even if you haven't completely read the book, you please feel free to join us, get a feel for it, and
you can read the cliff notes like I did in high school.
And you can chip in.
Yes, ma'am. We still have those. I still have to make those. We did make the was it biscuits?
Yes.
Yes, they were awesome.
They were good.
By the way,
they were really good.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all join us for book club. If you will, do the YouTube things, hit like, subscribe, whatever,
and notifications on. That's always helpful. And we love you guys. Thanks for being with us. We try to be as honest and open as we can. Sometimes I'm annoying. Sorry about that.
I am never annoying, so let's just get that out officially for all to understand.
I'm aware.
So,
but anyway, thank you guys for being here, and we love you to death. And we hope to see you. Send you an email. Thank you. I will send it to you. Thank you, Sky Ricky. And we hope to see you guys on Tuesday.
Really appreciate you guys. Hope y'all have a great weekend. Blessed Easter. Blessed whatever other holidays possibly could be out there for you all. Really, thank you all. Our time is up. We thank you for yours. Good night.
Guys. Sweet dreams.